In 2000, two people met at a cocktail party. They discussed things that they had in common and the places that they lived, where they came from, and what kind of work they did. Well, one of the persons was an employee at the Des Moines Art Center and suggested that maybe they come up with a plan for the Art Center that would bring in more visitors, more members, and also reach out to a specific community that was growing and growing every day. They presented their plan to the Art Center's director at the time. Well, that plan turned into an event that just happens to be the largest attended event of the Des Moines Art Center's annual event calendar. And it's called the Day of the Dead.
Well, it's hard to believe that the Day of the Dead at the Art Center is 25 years old. It began, actually, Gary McKay, along with staff member Paula Hutton-McKinley, brought it to then director Susan Talbot as an idea to engage the broader community. Susan Talbot immediately embraced it, and we, as an institution, went forward. It was part of the Art Center's effort to broaden the program and the accessibility of the Art Center to a larger segment of the community.
I came to Des Moines because my husband accepted a position at Meredith Corporation. And a couple of months after arriving in Des Moines, I started working at the Des Moines Art Center. And I helped with public engagement, community engagement programs. So I attended many social gatherings that were part of the Meredith family. And I met Gary McKay and many others at these gatherings. And Gary and I just gravitated to each other. And when we started to talk about Day of the Dead, he experienced Day of the Dead in Texas. I experienced it in California. We both lit up. And I quickly understood that the Art Center would greatly benefit from a program like this. And so I immediately approached him and asked him if he would want to partner with me. And we created the Day of the Dead together.
Gary Don McKay was born on May 19th, 1952, in Levelland, Texas, and spent some of his youth in eastern New Mexico. Later, he moved to Odessa, Texas, a city in the Permian Basin region known for oil and gas production. It is also known for its connection to the book and popular movie Friday Night Lights, its distinctive cowboy culture, and the Smithsonian-affiliated Ellen Noel Art Museum. He attended Odessa College, and shortly after, he was drafted, but after serving was honorably discharged and continued college at the University of Texas, Austin, finishing his Bachelor of Fine Arts degree there in the late 70s. He continued studying, working on a Master of Fine Arts degree in creative writing at the University of Houston. Gary had a great passion for the beauty of the desert. He loved the openness of the landscape, the sweep and scale, even the bleakness of West Texas, where the southern Great Plains overlaps with the Chihuahuan Desert. The folk art of Mexico and the aesthetics of his home state of Texas was his inspiration for the beautiful ofrendas we have enjoyed for many years. He saw beauty in so many places and things. And it was in Houston where he met his lifetime partner.
We met at a neighborhood tavern in Houston, Texas, 1987. He was working as a journalist, and also he was working on his MFA in creative writing at the University of Houston. We came to Des Moines in 1994, winter, which was a big change from Houston in winter.
I was at Meredith Corporation, and it was February of 1994, I believe, because we were displaced because of the flood. So we were working in West Des Moines, and Gary and his partner Brent moved up from Houston, and Gary took the job of style director at Country Home Magazine.
I met Gary at Meredith Corporation when I was assigned to photograph him as a style director. And what I remember is when Gary came down, that's like, you know, being into style things myself, was that of a skull ring, very prominent, beautiful skull ring. And I thought, this guy looked interesting. Kind of at the time, really a very fresh jolt of new energy we felt that come into Des Moines. But oh my God, tremendous sense of humor.
Absolutely. He absolutely loved the Mexican culture. He and his partner Brent would go at least annually to Mexico City and then to rural towns out from there.
We traveled a lot in Mexico. We were in Mexico City probably about every other year. But we also started exploring some of the regional cities. The regional differences in Mexico were very profound because it's a mountainous country, and so cultures have kind of developed a lot of distinctiveness inside their mountain worlds, which is, the Central Sierras. I think Gary was fascinated by all that, the regionalism, which is extremely important, I think, to understanding Mexico, that it's not just, Tex-Mex and a few bright colors and margaritas. He understood that there was a very profound culture there. He understood that this was maybe a part of America that was not particularly carefully examined, and he found a lot of beauty in it. Things like the Gila monsters, the road runners, locally called the paisanos, just the kind of bigness, the openness of it. He, of course, Marfa was kind of an important place in that imagery. That's where Giant, the movie, had been filmed with Liz Taylor and Rock Hudson back in the early 60s, late 50s. In any event, that if you get a flavor of his world from that movie.
Gary really introduced me to the Day of the Dead project. I didn't know that much about it back then. I don't know that Des Moines knew a lot about it, but I was just there to help basically assist him on building these amazing altars. They are tall and they take up that beautiful, beautiful space in the Art Center lobby. And Gary would work and work and work to get it to be beautiful from all aspects, because it's a sculpture in the round. And he wanted to see it from, an adult's eye level, from a child's level, up close, from back away. It was really, bringing all of his strengths together. Okay, Gary's from West Texas, Odessa, very proud of being from Odessa. And I did not know that it was, I knew it was a big football country, but Friday Night Lights was filmed in Odessa. And so I did a little Wikipedia search, and that's where Hayden Fry was from. So there you go, big football connection. However, I don't think Gary ever watched a football game.
But I think he took pride into growing up in a town, kind of the ooh-rah-rah, football town. But guess what? I'm not interested in that.
He's not interested in football, but he was the president of his high school class.
Oh, well, there you go.
I met Gary in the late 90s, and we both were on the fundraising gala for the Art Center. We both were on a committee together for one of the years of that. I think it was maybe 97 or 98. Gary and I kind of had that, just the design aspects of our lives in common, and we hit it off, and we're just remained friends.
I am a graphic designer. I always attend all the committee meetings from the very beginning, so I'm part of the concept. I'm part of choosing who we honor, but my real job is to make the concept and make the lives of the people we're honoring come to life visually. So I do that by designing a logo, by doing postcards, invitations, and by doing any pieces that we need for the ofrenda. This year's logo was developed based on the concept of the 25th anniversary, of course, but we included the shape of a gravestone, which in itself is a little bit sad, but with bright colors and decoration, it became an icon for the 25th anniversary of this event. And we really came up with those ideas from looking at Gary's actual burial site in Marfa, Texas. It's in the desert, And it just is the epitome of everything he loved about the landscape and the colors. In fact, the colors on the ofrenda this year come from the desert. And that's why they are the way they are, in honor of Gary and his visual loves.
It took me a long time to figure out what kind of tombstone to do, and then I was in Merida with some of our friends, and I had an afternoon to myself and went to the City Museum of Merida, and there was a part of it that was decorative arts, and there was a local sculptor who had been prominent in the Mayan revival, and there was a maquette model of a tombstone he designed in Mayan revival, and I took a hard look at it and I thought, yeah, that could work well for Gary. And I think it ended up being a successful thing, and I think he would have liked it. I think it's good for him to be back in West Texas.
I think one of the things I was most impressed with about him is how he took an idea or a person's life and he just came up with an incredible concept of how to make it come to life. One of the most impressive ones was the train car that he created.
The inspiration and design of the 2007 Ofrenda rail car is thought to have been the recognition of the 2002 discovery of 11 deceased immigrants found in a rail car in Denison, Iowa, to recognize the dangers of illegal immigration, and also to recognize immigrants from Mexico who settled in Valley Junction, Iowa, and in Des Moines, Iowa, to work on the railroads. Those immigrants helped to build what is now Des Moines and West Des Moines.
That was a very different kind of experience. So, but very special that those people are not forgotten. The working on the ofrenda and for that very first Day of the Dead at the Art Center was really through Gary. That was my introduction to. I was aware of that tradition in the community, but I don't know that I knew a lot about it, so I learned a lot through Gary. So he brought me in because we knew we worked well together, and we had similar aesthetics, so it was easy for us to make things happen.
I have a great collaborator. He works in real life as an interior designer. He has a great deal of experience putting together store displays, so he can help us make these wonderful sort of assemblages of artifacts and photographs so that you can read them from a distance, you can look at them and sort of put together the story of the honorees' lives. This is the 8th year that Keith and I have collaborated on this project, and every year we come together here a few days before the party, the Day of the Dead party, and spend all day together, starting from scratch, from a bare altar, and then layering on images, flowers, relics, so that the altar becomes a really layered and meaningful collage.
Anything that he became interested in, he dove headfirst into it, and this was one of those things. So he traveled a lot in Mexico, and he would come back with various ideas that would at some point probably be incorporated into the ofrenda over the years.
My role was more to help support my mother, who was a historian, who knew all the stories and knew a lot of things about the people, the honorees, and then also to make sure that there were certain things from that person's life that was on the ofrenda, so that when you looked at it, you saw their life and you connected it to them.
We would review the honorees that were going to be honored that particular year and think about the different aspects of those individuals. And Gary would just move forth and create these amazing concepts for each ofrenda. We worked with architects, we worked with designers, we worked with artists, and many others. And my space was really working within the Latino community, getting to know them, letting them know I'm new in this community. Individuals said, you must meet 2 community leaders that are phenomenal. Mary Campos Isla Placencia and her daughter Paula Placencia, and it was such a joy. And the first year we worked together. For many years, Gary was the Ofrenda team leader and worked with an impressive group of creative professionals. Gary had big ideas for each Ofrenda. Sometimes I would gently remind him about our budget. Isla, without fanfare, would write a generous check to the Des Moines Art Center. Isla was simply extraordinary. She just rolled up her sleeves, got things done. She was a treasured friend.
This year we were very fortunate that Gene Wilson, who was an original member of the committee and who worked very closely with Gary and helped his ideas come to life in the beginning, came back. And she helped us on the Ofrenda by building these very large, 2-foot-high skull heads out of patterns that we found online. She fastidiously cut out all the pieces, put them together with double-sided tape, and you can see the end result sitting on top of the Ofrenda, holding the 25th anniversary logo.
I remember very well the first time I worked on Day of the Dead. It was 2002, and I got one of those urgent calls, can you come right over and paint? And I said, sure, I'll be there. And I really enjoyed, I worked on painting skulls, and there were some other things. And I didn't really think too much of it. I was just helping Keith out because I didn't know Gary, but Gary remembered me fondly. So every year I'd get a call from Gary when he was designing the Ofrenda, and I worked on it for several years. The theme that I remember the most was 2008, when Gary was describing what it was going to be, and I won't even say it right, Quetzalcoatl, and I didn't know what that was, and Gary was shocked that I did not know. So we didn't have the internet back then, so I couldn't go. Well, we probably did, but I figured out what it was, and I built the giant 8-foot, 10-foot Quetzalcoatls.
Well, the name of this particular creature is Quetzalcoatl, and he or she is an ancient god in the native culture of Mexico. Great and powerful, and a kind of a mythical combination of reptile and bird. So you see the combination of snake features and the feathers of a parrot or a beautiful tropical bird.
I would say my fondest memories are the ofrendas themselves, because it changes with the person that's being honored. And I have several, which had Quetzalcoatl on the 4 corners. Another one is one we did for recognizing the first families that came to Des Moines, South Side, and West Des Moines Valley Junction, where it looked like a graveyard, but every family was represented. Another one was a railroad that we did. We built an actual railroad replica of a car. And, of course, the veterans. And then the last one has been the ones we did recognizing those that were in sports. And that one is the one I myself designed and put together. But it was nice because we were telling stories about people that people didn't know about. And when you look at the ofrendas and some of these pictures, you can see how detailed it was, how specific it was to that individual, and how each ofrenda was very unique and very personable. So that's what we loved working with Gary.
The ofrenda was always this amazing feat and an amazing visual treat, if that's the right word. It was always very large, very impressive, very imposing, and it brought awe to those who watched it being made. It was a community endeavor. It was created by the community for the community, honoring those who have come before, honoring those in the community, honoring the families of those still in the community. It was just an extraordinary feeling. It was extraordinary. Look at the history, look at the present, look at the history in terms of larger global history, but also the history of this community and the history of the Latino community within the broader Des Moines metro. And that's an astonishing and wonderful and celebratory process.
There were lots of people behind the scenes making this event so successful. They did it in small ways. One of the persons was Vince Bejarano. Vince was one of 8 siblings who grew up on the south side of Des Moines. After he retired, he began working at the Art Center in security and most notably as a greeter at the Education Center door. You could always count on a smiling face and a helpful hand. He just had the perfect personality for the job. Vince always had a way with people, making sure they were always welcomed. He had a way of making anyone feel valued. His kindness and thoughtfulness reflected well on the Des Moines Art Center, and he was appreciated by students, visitors, and staff. He was also a veteran of the United States Army. Vince's sisters, Aurora Lumadue and Patty Iseminger, were an important part of the effort that went into each year's event. Patty was a person who gave all to her family, church, and the community. She was truly a good Samaritan and is missed by all. She and Aurora were a team, and it was good to have them as an integral part of the celebration. Patty was a friendly, pleasant person who was always there to help her sister Aurora. Aurora was recognized in 2015, but it is fitting that we recognize her especially this year for her special working and personal relationship with founder Gary McKay. She was loved and respected by her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and one grandchild said that her love and guidance influenced their lives. They were a big part of why she did what she did in her life.
Aurora was such a remarkable model as a community volunteer. She was so dedicated to her church. She was dedicated to the Des Moines Art Center. She always worked with such integrity, with her gentle and determined ways of moving in the world, and she was a very, very dear friend.
Aurora was on our Day of the Dead team for maybe 13 years, and I recognized from the beginning that she was a person who got the job done and also amazingly gentle as she did it. She was up for anything. She would go and get staples. She would get tape. She would fluff or make flowers, paper flowers, all day long for the altar. And always very quietly just making things happen. I really valued that in her because it's a crazy process to put the altar together, and Aurora was so efficient yet so calming that she was a great companion through all that. She was also amazingly important in the Latino community here. The same skills that she brought to the Day of the Dead altar as an assistant, as a person who was there, she brought to every organization she was ever in. LULAC, the Catholic Women's League, she was a quiet force of nature. She was one of those people who can do so much with such grace.
Both my faith and my personal beliefs really encourage me to embrace all cultures and to get to know people from other cultures. And I really, truly believe that the only way to build bridges between our cultures is to get to know each other, have more understanding, and to become friends. And the Day of the Dead has helped me do that. I walk through the crowd on that day, and I know people, and I have friends who I just would not have otherwise known. And it has truly enriched my life.
The current environment in our society is a very challenging time for all of us. It's particularly challenging for the Latino community. So it is absolutely necessary for organizations like the Art Center, as well as individuals who are supportive of our communities and diverse communities, that this continues and that it continues to be supported and that we all continue to participate in it. It is our role in society to do so.
When I joined the committee in 2004, I really knew nothing about Day of the Dead, so this has been a wonderful learning experience. I understood it to be a time of celebration, a time of gathering with families and friends to honor people who had passed on, and at that time of year to feel them in your midst and feel connected to them. Having just recently lost both of my parents, this year will be especially wonderful for me, and I will feel my parents' presence and celebrate their lives along with all of the other people at the celebration.
The Day of the Dead celebration is one of the Art Center's signature events, one of its most important and one of its most attended events. One of the things that makes the Art Center's Day of the Dead celebration especially unique and important is that it's built, designed, and executed with members of the local community. I think that that is exceptionally special. The Art Center's Day of the Dead celebration is a perfect epitome of our strategic pillar to bring the world to Iowa and Iowa to the world. In so doing, we link the local, the regional, and the international communities. The Art Center's Day of the Dead celebration is rooted very much in our history, but also very much a part of our future.